Hello. Most of the men and women who live here today on Earth are addicted and stationed in their beliefs. The avatars, the great men and women, even the so called gods of the past, ended up generating religions on Earth, no matter if they wanted to or not. It is a fact that their legacy has been turned into religions. So, let's talk about religions and the clash of cosmic reality. There is a reality that transcends our understanding, which we call superior spiritual reality. It is important to talk about it before we talk about the cosmic reality that we also do not know. Superior spirituality has neither a beginning nor an end, and it is pre-existent to all that exists, and inside of it, there are processes of constant creation. Whenever creation happens, superior spirituality is shielded through a quantum collapse. The shield is a natural protection for the superior spirituality. All creations are internal, since there is nothing outside the superior spiritual reality. The shielding is necessary so that this reality is never infected by any possible creation problems. The theater of life depends on the kind of information that each creation will have. This new environment created will be more or less complete, more or less perfect, depending on how this creation is conducted. The spiritual levels that will exist within each creation are not the superior spirituality and are not shielded from the creation. Let's imagine that a certain city is the superior spiritual reality and that a building of the city is a creation and that we, biological living beings, live on the ground floor of this creation and we cannot even realize that there are several floors in this building. Although it is extremely problematic to live on the ground floor of this building, it is created in a chilled way, so it does not contaminate the city in which it came into existence. Let's now imagine that this ground floor is divided in two distinct environments and that all forms of lives that arise in this building should live on the ground floor. Now, let's call these two distinct environments of the ground floor Brahmaloka and Bhuloka using the Sanskrit language. Let's imagine that the city is so great that it is all that exists and nothing can be created outside of it, even because there is nothing, really nothing outside the city. In this example, when we die, we go to the first floor and we are surprised when we get there because we are still existing, but on a different floor that we did not know it existed. And it's still having some of the same problems that we had on the ground floor. It's strange, and it's real. This is more or less what happens with our spirits. The floors are the internal spiritual levels that are formed around the creation, but they are also within the same shield and cannot contaminate the city. We were conditioned to think that it was God who created the building and all its floors. But what if the building is problematic? What if everyone who comes into this building comes up with problems? Who's to blame? The beings that have appeared inside the building, or who created the building in the first place? Who's to blame? What we have difficulty understanding is why the true God allows someone to create something imperfect, problematic, or incomplete. Why is not God Himself alone responsible for creating? Does God, the true God, create nothing and interfere with nothing? Or is it God responsible for creation in which all lives need to murder other life forms to survive? Who's to blame? Who is responsible for species that feed on each other and that live in a problematic building? What if the building was created with an unsuitable material that will only last for a certain time, and one day it will simply fall on the heads of everyone who lives in it? Where does it lead? Do you see where I am going with all these questions and with this example? Can you see it? Our universe, which is in fact two in one day will stop existing. That's what science tells us. In the example I just gave, our universe is the ground floor divided in two distinct environments, which I'm calling Bhuloka and Brahmaloka, as I have said before. The other floors of the building are the spiritual floors, and the city would be the superior spirituality. But the issue now is to find out who actually built the building and what happened during its construction. The Bhuloka is our physical universe with all the stars and planets forming the galaxies. It is huge. We're talking about at least 2 or more 100 billion of galaxies, each one with billions of stars and planets. In here, I'm not even talking about the satellites. The Brahmaloka is a material universe, parallel to Bhuloka, but with different structures. It looks like a hive, with several different kinds of beings living there. So, in our example, these two environments will be the ground floor of the building, as I have already mentioned. Let's imagine now that there were some constructors living in the city, or in other words, living in the superior spirituality, and that one day they have decided to create one more building to make the city even more beautiful. Let's imagine that. In order for the building to be constructed correctly, they would have to work together, but one of them could not wait for the others and started the work alone. He shouldn't have done that, but for some reason he did. When he was building the ground floor, something went wrong, very, very wrong. His mental portion was sucked into this creation, into his own creation, and all of a sudden he saw himself inside his creation, alone, sick, without any memories that he was a citizen of the city and started to try to finish his creation from the inside. When the other constructors realized what had happened, it was too late. They could not rescue their beloved friend, and they could not enter the building either. So they started to try to help somehow, but it was very difficult to do anything at that time in that situation. I know it is a poor example, but that is the only one I can think of to try to describe this context. Many mythologies from the past tell exactly this story, but today, for the modern human being, they are only myths. Unfortunately, it is true, and we have to understand this better if we really want to be prepared to coexist with our cosmic brothers. Even if we don't want to coexist with them, we will have to, because we are all living in the same building, and we need to get out and go back to the city before the building falls down. So, moving on, when the builder who initiated the construction saw himself inside of it, and with no memories from before, he isolated a place for him and tried to rebuild himself. That's the only thing he could do. Let's call him Brahma. And Brahmaloka means the home of Brahma, which was the place that he isolated for him to live there. The way Brahma built himself is not a human way. He was a multiple being with scattered parts that he could control using his mental capacity, that he could control through his mind power. From outside the building, Brahma's colleagues were trying to help him, but the only way to truly help him would be entering the building, entering the creation. And that is what they have tried to do. After some time, alone inside the building, Brahma decided to try to create other beings to live inside his creation and to help him develop. He managed to create some bodies using his own material as base. These beings were created submitting to his will and started to live with him in different areas of the Brahmaloka. Brahma was not aware of it, but the spirits who came into the inconvenient creation were the ones from his colleagues that were trying to help him from the city. Unfortunately, they couldn't do much because once they managed to get inside, they too would lose their memories, and to make things more difficult, more complicated, they had to use one of these bodies completely submit to Brahma's control, Brahma's will. The name of Brahma may change, but many mythologies of ancient cultures claim that our Big Bang came about this way. Religions have distorted this history. Other names of the Creator were and are Yahweh, Jehovah, Allah, Kel, Spanku, among others. Therefore, the only being that existed in the building was a fallen part of the Creator himself, and later on, cloned bodies submitted to his control. In my books, I used to call these cloned bodies as angels. And there are many of them, almost 1 billion of beings of cloned bodies submitted to Brahma's control. It is important to highlight that for billions and billions of years, the Buloka has developed lifeless. Life first appeared in the Brahmaloka from clones engendered by the Creator himself. This verb, engender, is very difficult for us to understand, but it means something that looks like clone, that look like you create somebody with one simple cell. Before the first generations of clones were created, the only spirit that was in some way confined to this creation was the one of Brahma, while his real spirit was fainted in the superior spirituality. A mental portion, a kind of mental portion, was shielded within its creation, more precisely within the Brahmaloka. Brahmaloka is prison, is a jail. The Buloka, too. In the first millennia, as we have said, after regaining his composure, he was able to create other beings as well. Let's call them clones of Brahma, the angels of Brahma, as I said before. The first spirits that jumped into the building were not simple and ignorant spirits like the ones who appeared later on. They were spirits who decided to dive into this creation to help the fallen creator, to help his fallen colleague. It was a kind of divine favor. What father or mother would not do the same to rescue a son or a daughter? They entered for love. But here, I have to make a comment, a reflection about the meaning of love. The way we human beings love each other is a spiritual way that usually those beings do. They really jump in this creation for love, as I said before, but perhaps more than a love, I should tell for a responsible feeling, something like an obligation to jump. The love that these beings usually feel is not the romantic love, the tender love we humans feel. So I have to tell you that they enter to help solving the problems of the creation. And it is about time that we realize that this universe was created in a very problematic way. See you in the next video.